the church, but my father was like a nigga. Like he's a good guy, but like he's a good guy with an effed up husband. You know, like he divorced him and my mom got a divorce in 1998. You know, because he couldn't keep his penis in his pants, basically. You know, he got outside kids from other women and stuff like that. So he was the type of father, like if I would confront him about his cheating, he'd be like, when do you understand? You know, that type.
Well, but in some ways you did. Understand.
As you get older, then you know, you do stupid stuff like cheating on your wife. Yeah, you get it, but that's not an excuse.
No, not an excuse. That's more of a segue. You talk about in the book. You talk about anxiety about being a good husband and about coming to a point where you like, look, I either need to have a healthy relationship or I need some new opportunities.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, in the book I talk about basically choosing peace of mind over pieces of boom. Because, you know, I've been with my woman for 20 years now. We've been married for like 4. I'm being honest. I've been sober, meaning I haven't cheated in like 3 years. And that was
Hold on, I just want to rewind that just to make sure we got the infographic up. You've been in a relationship for 20. You've been married for 4. You haven't cheated in 3.
Now listen, let me be clear.
So it's not just a 1 year, it's a particularly in the first year.
It's not like I was cheating the whole 20 years. You know, I would have my spells, but I'd be cool and I'd be good. I mean, she went to college and did her thing too. You know, that's when you really love somebody. Same way she can forgive me for doing some BS, I gotta forgive her for doing some BS. If we really love each other, plus we was kids, we've been together since we've been youngsters in high school. So it's just like, I mean, if you really gonna be with somebody for that long, it's gonna be ups and it's gonna be downs. But for me, I had to really ask myself, like, is that anxiety worth it? Like, is the anxiety of waking up in a hotel room in LA somewhere when I'm supposed to be out there working, but I know I got a lady with me and my wife is calling me with my daughter on FaceTime and I'm on FaceTime and the woman I'm with is under the covers, like hiding. Do I have to deal with that? Like, should I put myself through that? And it's just like you're full of sugar, honey, iced tea. Because like, who wants to be in a relationship with you lying to somebody?
That's what I was gonna say
every day.
Because sometimes if we talk about anxiety too much, it can only focus inward.
Yeah.
So like, there's plenty of reasons to not cheat other than just it makes you anxious, right? It's also about your wife.
And like I said, you know you're full of it.
Right.
And like you can bring that in the house. You bring that in the house and like you looking at her sideways, you know, thinking she up to something, but it's really all you. Like you the one that's up to something. And she know you full of it anyway. So it's like you can't be claiming to be, you know, a real individual and lying to the closest person to you. Like, who want to be in a relationship like that? So I just felt like for me, if I really want to be a man and like really be a good father and not do to my family what I feel like my father did to my mom and our family, then I just gotta be a good human being, you know?
Well, one of the things
don't applaud me for doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Don't do that. That's like me saying, hey, I take care of my kids. You're supposed to.
One of the things therapy often does, it's done for me and I think it does for other people, is it forces you to reckon with your patterns and to say, what are the things that I keep doing over and over again that I don't intend to do, or what are things that I said I would never do that somebody else did that I still wake up and find myself doing. One of them you talked about with the cheating. What are some other things what are some of the patterns you've had to kind of wrestle with?
Lack of empathy. I think you know, a lot of times, and for a long time, I always thought about intention. Like, you know, I've always, you know, grown up reading like Wayne W. Dyer, The Power of Intention. And it's always like, if your intention is good, it's okay. Yeah. But sometimes you can say things with the best intentions, especially in the positions that, you know, we're in with media. You can say things with the best intentions, but the impact could be negative. Like people offended, people could get upset, which is fine sometimes because we're not gonna always say things that people agree with, but we may not have been cognizant of what we were talking about. Right? So we were talking about something but not realizing that other people have been through that same situation, and what we take light really may still be affecting somebody else. So I think for me it's just about having empathy for others.
Okay, you know? Let's talk about the empathy. That's actually a good place to talk about something that we talked about before. Full disclosure, one of the anxieties I had about doing this event was the kind of pushback that I think people had about particular comments you made in the past. And one of them, and there's two things I want to talk about, but one of them was the question of transphobia. The Lil Duval interview. Janet Mock, who's a dear friend of mine actually, the day before had been on, I believe, and Duval was talking about Janet Mock among other people. And this exchange came where he was, one, misgendering Janet Mock, and second, making remarks that were not just antagonistic, but outright violent, saying that he would kill someone, essentially, who would, if they turned out to be trans. He made the jokes. The media, to some extent, said that you were making jokes. When people look at the transcript, you weren't making the jokes, but you were laughing, and your laughter was complicit. Your laughter reinforced and normalized, in my estimation, the idea that violence against trans people is okay. Talk to me about that incident, and help me make sense of how something like that can happen, because it's important to me and also Uncle Bobbie's family to talk about this stuff.
I mean, for me, one thing I learned through therapy is I laugh when I'm uncomfortable. Because if you saw the actual interview, the first thing I told Head Duval, who's a good friend of mine, by the way, first thing I said was like, yo, you can't say that. That's a hate crime. I'm like, and I said, you can't go around talking about you want to kill transgender people. But I'm not a member of the LGBT community, so I didn't push back as hard as I probably should have, or as hard as members of that community would have wanted me to. I wasn't aware of a lot of the things that transgender people experience. Like, I didn't know that the murder rate was so high for transgender people. And I think that week, a young woman was killed for being transgender, I think in Atlanta.
Yep.
So, I mean, to be honest, that was just a moment where you got three people that are ignorant to that community, having a conversation and not being sensitive to the people in that community. That goes back to what I'm talking about when we're talking about, intention of words and the impact. Like, the impact hit way harder than I thought it would, and the reason it hit way harder than I thought it would is because I just wasn't aware of the gravity of that conversation. Other than, Duval saying that and me thinking to myself immediately, like, well, that don't sound right. Like,
when does that hit you? Like, when did you say, oh shit, I fucked this one up? I can't say that.
I mean,
that's my outrage, y'all. I just talked about church. I just talked about killing trans people dying. Y'all like say nothing. I said, fuck, they oh shit.
I think it hit me when I just started paying attention. Like, I could have been hard-headed and I've been like, oh, whatever. I could have shrugged that off. I could have just been upset that everybody was coming at me and I didn't even really make the comments. Like, they were protesting me and stuff. Like, I actually made the comments. But I was just listening to what people were saying and listening to that community and understanding where they was coming from. And I'm not going to hold on to that and fight that. Like, wrong is wrong. You were wrong in that situation.
I know my therapist always talks about, before we pivot to the next thing, my therapist always talks about actionable stuff. Like, after you come to terms with this moment where I did this thing, what's the next thing we can do? So in terms of, for example, in terms of the trans community, it's one thing to say the next day I messed up. It's another thing to acknowledge that laughter is complicity and to say this contributes to the violence. Because, obviously your violence is so big. Yeah, but you're bad. Because you laughing, if you step into that moment and say, Duval, that's fucked up, and here's why, that actually has way more impact than even Duval's laughter, right? Because, like, wait a minute, Charlamagne checked somebody on transphobia in front of tens of millions of people.
Well, I couldn't have done that because I didn't have the information.
No, I'm saying, right. So I'm saying, once that moment passes and you can't do that, because you're saying you didn't know, what do we do after that moment? How do you make sense of or repair damage after that kind of thing happens?
Well, I always say that the best apology is change behavior. And prior to that, we can't sit here and act like we haven't, or at least the Breakfast Club, I haven't been trying to have those conversations with that community. Like you said, Janet Mock was on that week. Yeah. Like, we had Janet Mock on promoting her book, and we got pushback from that. Like, that's the thing that people don't see. Of course, you see when Duval does the interview and, he makes the comments he makes, that community pushes back on Duval. But when we had Janet Mock on, we had people pushing back on us. Like, I'm not listening to the Breakfast Club no more. Why y'all entertaining this madness? And you got all the religious folks like, I'm in the car and I gotta listen to this satanic stuff. I don't care. Everybody should be allowed to have a voice. Everybody should be allowed to have a platform. So, like, I'm just gonna continue to do that. Like, if there's members of the LGBT community who wanna come on, the transgender community who wanna come on and they wanna speak about their community and the things that their community goes through, the platform is open.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you about another anxiety that you said you have, which is about your roots.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about when in the book where you talk about this idea of having survivor's guilt, of being worried about, being the one who comes out of the hood that makes it and what that means for people who didn't make it, and also being true to where you come from, which you shout out your hood. That's the only reason I know that place exists.
Moncks Corner, South Carolina.
Because how many people in Moncks Corner?
Right now it's about 10,000 because people been having sex. When I was growing up, it was like 7,000.
So 10,000 people in a town. We know it because you rep it. And I thought about the Monique interview, and the first thing that happened when you interviewed Monique was how I understood her talking. It was almost saying, you're not humble. Because when I met you, you was in Moncks Corner, now you think you're big time because you're in New York. The stuff like that play into the anxiety that people think that you're not humble anymore.
Yeah, especially when you go home. When you go home for the holidays and everybody wants to remind you that you ain't shit. To them. You still the same old dude that they grew up with. Like, they go out of their way to remind you of that. I could be doing nothing but sitting here drinking this water. Oh, you think you're better than everybody because you can afford Poland Spring? I got a whole case right there. You can get one too. Like, we good. So yes, absolutely. And then it's the whole especially when you go home sometimes, man, and you grew up in a certain lifestyle. The only way you can ever be real to those individuals is to still be doing the same criminal stuff that y'all was doing when you was growing up.
Right.
We gotta change the narrative when it comes to what is real in our community, because for so long, what we said was real was actually just the criminal stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to be a hood dude to be real. Like, I don't have to have sold drugs to be real. Like, I don't have to bust my gun to be real. Like, this is what we're doing right now is a real conversation. Two black men in a church talking about mental health and our vulnerabilities and, holding ourselves accountable for the BS that we've done. That's real to me. Like, being a better man to my woman is being real to me. Being a great father is being real to me.
Who keeps you in check?
Oh man, I got a hell of a circle. My wife, I got great friends, like black women. I got just a circle of people. I mean, same friends we got, Angela Rye, Amanda Seals, I got mentors like my man Dr. Robert Evans, brothers like Brother Don Muhammad, like they'll just all call me when they feel like I'm going astray in any way. And the beauty is, over the past couple years, they haven't really had to check me on anything, other than to tell me good job, which is good.
But that is good. What is it difficult to get to hear that kind of criticism the bigger you get? Because sometimes, no.
I want it, man. I welcome it, because we've watched a lot of people go crazy the bigger they get, because for whatever reason, the bigger they get, the more yes men are in their circle. Like, nobody's telling them the truth anymore. And then that's when you start running around with MAGA hats.
I was about to say, you mentioned going to Kanye's house, you talked about it in the book.
Yeah.
Kanye West. I mean, the other thing is with Kanye, you had an event with Kanye. You were supposed to have an event with Kanye.
Yeah, New York Times talk.
You canceled it. Now, just so people understand, books, your first week when you sell a book is your biggest week. Mm-hmm. And reporting to the New York Times is how you know whether your book is going to sell or not. Uncle Bobbie, of course, reports to the New York Times. There's no hint. So, canceling an event with Kanye West.
Where 1,200 tickets were sold, so that's 1,200 books.
Guaranteed.
Yes.
What would make you do that?
When I saw him in the White House, I waited a day because I didn't want to have a knee-jerk reaction to anything. Because sometimes we see what everybody's talking about on social media and the backlash somebody is getting, and we're not really thinking for ourselves. We're basically thinking, about the reaction that the person is getting. So I wanted to wait and make sure I wasn't making a knee-jerk reaction. Because to be honest with you, it's not the political views that upset me. It was when I saw him at the White House and he said that he doesn't even feel like he's bipolar. He got misdiagnosed. He said it was sleep deprivation. And he said that he wasn't on his medication anymore. And, when I heard him say that, I was like, all right, that brother needs to figure that out. And I feel like if we would have got on that Times Talk stage, me, Kanye, and John Charlamagne, we would have had to talk about what happened in the White which I want to have, which is the conversation about mental health in our community. Like, that's the conversation I'm trying to elevate. And if we're trying to eradicate the stigma of mental health, we don't need no distractions. You know, so I feel like everybody would have been focused on the distractions of the MAGA hat and, you know, his support of Trump. And I just was like, I don't want to be a part of that service.
How much of Kanye's last 6 months do you attribute to mental health, and how much do you attribute to him just being Kanye, and how much do you attribute to him just having bad politics?
See, that's the thing, right? We talk about the politics. Let's be honest. As much as we don't agree with what Kanye West is doing, he's not doing anything wrong. He's just doing something we don't agree with. And that's fine. We can disagree with him. If the brother told us that he has mental health issues, which he's been saying for the past couple of years, bipolar, being on meds, being off meds, now saying he got misdiagnosed, clearly there's something there. We all know the first sign of any real problem is denial. So now he's denying something which he once said he had an issue with. So for me, I just think we need to have a little bit more empathy, just because I think one of the reasons he's dialing back on saying he's mentally ill is because of all the backlash he got when he said he was. When he said he was, everybody's like, oh, he's crazy. And they're making jokes about him and they laughing at him. And I think that helps to reinforce the stigma more than it does to eradicate it. So I feel like we just need to have a little bit more empathy, because I don't know how severe his situation is. None of us do.
No, that's very true. There's some of it, I just feel like it's just... I remember back in Chicago, maybe 7-8 years ago, Ron Vest had connected me with Kanye, and he said something real dumb. I don't remember what it was, but it was just dumb.
That's him.
Right. And I said, no, that's not true. Here's Ron. He gave me some data, some facts. He said, see, that's why I don't like facts, because they go against what I already think.
And he's the same guy that told us he's a proud non-reader. Right. You know what I'm saying? And that's the other thing too, like when I said that, you know, he's saying things we don't agree with, but he's not necessarily wrong. And he's saying some dumb stuff. Like we all got that, we all be in the barber shop and hear that one dude who be like, yo, pink oil moisturizers make you guys gay, yo. Like, that's who Kanye is. Like, he's one of those guys.
Right.
You know?
I think the problem though is when you have a big platform, the words then do harm in a different way. Because the dude in the barbershop, this nigga's in the barbershop today, he said some wild shit, right? 3 people heard it. But when we get these big microphones and platforms, it becomes higher. It becomes like higher stakes. That's why I think so many of us are critical of Kanye. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so much danger in what he's saying. How important is it for other celebrities to push back? Like T.I. pushes back, other people push back now. How do we push back against Kanye without throwing him away?
That's a good question. With facts, you know, when he makes statements like abolish the 13th Amendment, no, check that. You don't want to abolish the 13th Amendment, you want to amend the 13th Amendment. Anything that's factual that he's saying that's wrong, you can check him on. You know, everything else is really just a matter of, you know, of opinion, a matter of agreeing or disagreeing. Like, do I think everybody who supports Donald Trump is mentally ill in some way? Yes. You know?
Or just racist.
Or just racist, you know, but I don't know why Kanye West supports Donald Trump, but I'm not gonna sit around and like, you know, rack my brain trying to figure that out. The only thing we can do is like shut him down with facts when he says things that are wrong. And I really, really think we're not paying attention enough to his cry for help when it comes to mental health. That's the reason I wanted to have the conversation with him, because every interview that he's done over the past couple of years, he's talked about it, but people just breeze by it. Like he did a whole interview with Harvey Levin at TMZ and said, I'm not on my meds no more, and Harvey didn't even touch on that at all.
Right. We all got excited about the slavery part.
Yeah.
Like, didn't think about the mental health part. You have a white therapist.
Yes. For now.
No, it's really interesting because at the end of each chapter, it's like an analysis. You know what I mean?
From a black
therapist.
Dr. Ish Mansion.
And at first I thought it was Dr. Ish, like it wasn't like it was a euphemism for shit. I didn't know it was an actual person. I got some Dr. Ish at the end of each chapter.
No, man, Dr. Ish Mansion is a real person. He graduated from the University of South Carolina. He's a real mental health therapist.
How does a white woman help you make sense of your experiences?
Well, let me tell you my thought process in picking my Caucasian therapist, right? I actually wanted an Asian woman, right? And the reason I wanted an Asian woman is because I wanted somebody that didn't have any of my biases, that didn't have any of my preconceived preconceived notions of the world, that didn't suffer from the same PTSD of, white supremacy that I'm sure all of us do in some way, shape, or form. Like, I got a whole chapter called Blackanoid about being black and paranoid in America. Like, I wanted to just talk to somebody who was coming from a real neutral place. But if you think, trying to find a black therapist is hard, try to find an Asian woman therapist. Right? So I ended up sitting down with this white woman, and I was just telling her how I felt about things. And the thing I liked about her so much is like she really would just listen. And then I remember one time I unloaded on her one day and she was like, whoa. And I was like, it's a lot, right? And she was like, yeah, that was a real answer to me. So when she started to give me, advice on things and help me to work through things, it wasn't just generic things that she read in the Four Agreements or The Secret. Like, it was coming from a real place of, wow, I never even knew it was like that, or I never heard it brought to me that way, or I didn't know a lot of black people had these feelings. So I just like the neutralness of it. Now, I've been with her for over a year and some change, so I'm at the point where I want to get pushed a little bit more, or I want somebody a little bit more understanding of the things that we go through on a daily basis. But I felt like, honestly, if I went to go see a black therapist early on and I told her all of the issues, especially with the anxiety that we feel when it comes to race, and watching these videos of black and brown people getting killed and beat up by the police all the time, I know she's gonna agree with me. Right. I know him or her is gonna agree with me, and it's probably just gonna make me even more angry. Yeah. At the end of the day. So I wanted somebody else that was more neutral to start my first process of therapy.
Is it hard to break up with your therapist?
No, I don't think it's a breakup.
Have you ever broken up with a therapist?
No, this is the only therapist I've ever had.
So I'm telling you, it's gonna feel like a breakup.
Really?
Yeah. So, like many of my relationships, I go with secretary be calling like, Mr. Hill, we haven't seen you in 3 weeks. I'm just busy. I'm going through a lot. I'll be back. Stuff about And then after about 3 or 4 months, they realize I'm not coming back. I've learned as I've gotten older to not ghost in real relationships, but also in therapeutic relationships. In the sense that now I say to them, hey, this isn't meeting my needs anymore. I need something else. It's not personal. It's not you. Yeah. But because you're going to have that bond with your therapist, and also you're going to feel like a debt is owed to them because they helped you get through some shit. Yeah. You're going to be like, I don't know if I can call Dr. whoever this is and say I can't do this anymore. It's going to feel like a breakup. So I'm just prepping you for that.
So I'll just cheat. You gotta break up with him.
That's true.
I just go see somebody else every now and then.
There you go. That's all. Nothing wrong with that when it comes to therapy.
With therapy. Only therapy.
Exactly. Sometimes two therapists. Anyway, hands. How many of you see a therapist right now? How many of you would never see a therapist right now? How many of you said no? I said 2 people. I said shit, I'm bringing it to the Lord. How many of you all are considering going to see a therapist? Okay, more than half the room is considering the possibility of seeing a therapist. What would you tell them to get them over the hump?
I would say just do it like Nike, man, because for me, therapy was like, it's like you're in a closet. Like, we all got a closet full of like clothes, and it's just junky and sneakers everywhere and clothes all over the place, and your wife is fussing at you, so you go in there with the boxes and you start like packing up all the old stuff you're not gonna wear anymore and you don't need no more, and you give that off to Goodwill, and then you organize the stuff that you wanna keep, and then you even got room for some new stuff and you organize that. Like, that's what therapy has done for me. It's just helped me organize my brain. And I don't understand why we put so much emphasis on our physical. Like, we go to the gym, we watch what we eat, we watch what we put in our bodies, but we don't do no type of workout for our brain. We don't do no exercise for our brain. Like, that makes zero sense to me, because everything starts with a thought. And I'm the type of person, I really believe that my thoughts become things. Like, I believe in the law of attraction. Like, if I show you my long-term goals and short-term goals and things that I've written down and said I was going to do and believed I was going to do, and you see how many things I've crossed out, when I started to look back at that, I really understood the power of my mind. And I feel like negative thoughts are the same way. If I hold on to those negative thoughts for too long, that's what causes me to have panic attacks sometimes. Because I'm thinking that, oh, this is going to come true, because I can't stop thinking about it. So it's like, for me, that's what therapy helps me to do. it helps me to hold on to the things that I need that are positive, and it helps me to eliminate the things that my brain doesn't need that are negative. So I think therapy is great.
That's a pretty good sell. I want everybody out here to think and talk about therapy. If you're in Philadelphia, there are some networks there are networks that will link you to a therapist. Also, when you go to a therapist, we want you to therapy shop. Don't go to the first therapist you meet. Find a therapist that fits you, because again, if you just try, it's like going to the store, if you try on one outfit, it might look all right, but it's not to be to the second or the third that you're like, oh, this actually looks better on me, this fits me better. So shop therapists, but look for one. You don't have to have a black therapist. Charlamagne is showing you that. I happen to prefer one, but you have to find one that fits you. So look for those networks of people, and there are people in the audience who I will point out as we go to Q&A. When we get to Q&A, we still got a couple more things to talk about. But when we get to Q&A, we want to talk about some therapy networks in Philadelphia so people can find that person they want. But make a commitment to finding a therapist, not next month, not next year, but on Monday.
And I think people think that therapy is it's not affordable, right? Which is absolutely not the case. I pay $150 an hour. I go once a week, but then you got people who pay $75, $100. Like if you got insurance, sometimes the copay will be like $30, $35. But my thing to tell people when they say they can't afford therapy is like, you can afford Yeezys, you can afford Jordans, you can afford your iPhone, Malcolm X's, like it's not even, there's so many of those now. You can afford all of that different stuff, right? So if you can afford all of that, then you can afford to, do something for your brain.
We gotta prioritize our mental health. There's also wellness groups and support groups and circles. For example, here at Uncle Bobbie's, Philip, every other Tuesday? Every other Monday, we have a group called Are You Okay, Man?
Good, man.
You good, man? I'm sorry, we made it black. You good, man? And it's for black men, both cis and trans, all men, excuse me, forgive me. It's called Are You Good, Man? It's for all men of all races, cis, trans, queer, straight, to talk about issues, health, healing. We have a licensed therapist leading the group. We have several licensed therapists in the group. We have another one for women as well that is beginning this Monday, meaning 2 days from now.
That's beautiful.
So we do this every other week. It's free. So you can buy the Yeezys and come to therapy, or at least a group. And we'll start there. And as you figure out what your needs are, because sometimes you don't know what you need until you go. And you're like, oh, I need help with this.
Yeah, that's what happened to me when I went with the book. Like, I went trying to get a handle on my anxiety, and I was just keeping a journal of all the things that were giving me anxiety. But as I'm talking to my therapist and unpacking 40 years of BS, I started to find the source of my PTSD and trauma from past experiences that happened to me when I was younger. And you go through that. Damn, I thought I loved my father. Now I hate my father. Like you go through all of that when you're unpacking all of this stuff in therapy. So you're gonna learn a lot about yourself, and it's gonna be uncomfortable, but it's worth it. And I don't mind feeling uncomfortable. I'm even uncomfortable talking about it now. Like it's not the easiest thing to talk to, but I'm fine with it because I understand that being uncomfortable means that is growth.
Absolutely. So on that note, let's talk a little bit about rape culture. After we booked you again, I remember I was out of the country and I got all these emails and all these updates, and people were like, yo, what's up with your man? I'm gonna let you start where you want to start. Let's move from there. But the thing that most urgent in my mind was the audio clip that came out from a few years ago where you were talking about having drunk sex with your eventual wife.
Yes.
And you saying that in retrospect it probably was rape. And her saying, and you joking and saying I called her and said, hey, was that rape or something like that? And then she said, in retrospect, probably yeah.
Which is I understand how people could say that, but no. Yes.
Okay, so tell the story.
Well, I mean, it's basically, Teen Vogue had a headline, and Teen Vogue's headline was, is drunk sex rape? That was the headline. And I think, rape culture is a term that a lot of us men was new to, at least it was new to me a few years ago. we were having conversations about, situations that were considered to us sketchy now. And so I was having the conversation about my wife. I was like, the first time me and my wife had sex, we were both super drunk. And I remember saying to her, like, yo, would you look at that as, rape? And she was like, well, I can see why people would say that, but, not in our situation. And I made the joke, a terrible joke a few years ago. I guess I married the woman I raped. And so I was sharing that on my podcast because I thought I was having a progressive conversation about rape culture and what men should look at, in situations that, we might have grown up on that now are like, no bueno. Especially, when you think about like colleges and, parties that we would attend, like we all would be drunk, we all would be high and getting it in, and then the next day we all may be having regrets about something. So I thought I was having a progressive conversation, but it did not come off that way in no way, shape, or form. And I guess that goes back to what I said earlier about intention over impact. Because if you go back and listen to that clip, the first thing I say in the clip is, I say men have to start realizing that a lot of things that we used to do could fall under the category of rape culture. Like that's how I started the conversation off.
How do you talk about intention, and I dig that. And I know you say your intention was to do X, right? To communicate that gray areas shouldn't be gray. It just, I don't know, black or white.
I advise brothers to leave it alone, and women, leave it alone. Like if you intoxicated in any way, shape, or form, if you're high, if you're drunk, just don't do it. Wait until everybody's home.
I think the concern that some people in the community have is that over time, the mistakes of I said this, but I meant this, I said this, but I meant this, has a kind of cumulative impact of harm on the community, and it seems to be one of the most vulnerable parts of our community. People who normally get erased out of blackness, trans folk, queer folk, women, black women in particular, femmes. How can we make sense of something like that? Because I think the community is concerned, especially at least here with the conversation we've been having is, as a community, Uncle Bobbie, and also you and I have had offline, is those concerns about how your comments do harm and serve as a kind of violence.
Well, I've been doing radio for 20 years. I've been doing the Breakfast Club for 8 years. I'm on the Breakfast Club every day, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I do a podcast every week. I don't even know how many hours of content that is. But you're talking to me about a clip, 2 clips. Like, where are the other examples?
I could give some, but
give me some. Because I see this narrative on social media, and I'm like, wow, that's weird. Like, I'm the only person on social media that seems to be everything. I'm homophobic and I'm gay. I pander to black women, but I hate black women. I'm married to a white woman, even though I'm married to a black woman and been with her for 20 years. Like, I'm the only person on social media that seems to be everything.
It's interesting because the black community does have some of them too. If you go to a black church, you got a preacher that's homophobic and probably gay, hates women, panders to black women. I
feel like we live in this era where anything can be taken out of context, and that's what they do. Because if you listen to that whole podcast, literally the whole podcast is us trying to have a progressive conversation about rape culture. And I feel like men should be having those conversations. I think the problem I made is not having those conversations while any women were present. Because when it's just a bunch of men around each other, the conversation can sound like it's insensitive, or it can sound like we're, making light of the situation.
Let me push back. I think when it's a bunch of men around, that's precisely when the conversation has to be. You know what I'm saying?
It depends what kind of men are around. In my case, it was me and a comedian, my man Andrew Schultz. That wasn't the best place to have that conversation. I don't think so.
But if you were talking about lynching, I know Andrew, he wouldn't have made a lynching joke. I mean, I found out with Andrew. I mean, maybe he would, but I guess my point is, there's a way that it's easier to make jokes about sexual violence. It's easier to make jokes about trans folk because we have such a toxic culture and such a cultural violence against them.
I agree with that.
So I guess what I'm saying is, I think this is the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you, is because I think cisgender, heterosexual men have to talk to each other and have to hold each other accountable for these things.
Yeah,
and we shouldn't need a woman in the room to should talk about rape culture to say rape is wrong or transphobia is wrong, etc.
Well, I think we should talk about it because women can't end rape culture. Women can't end sexism. Women can't end misogyny. They can talk about it and make us aware of the things that we're doing wrong. But we, as men, are the only people that can change that through our behavior. Same thing with racism. Like, black people can't change racism. Only thing we can do is make white people aware of it. White people gotta change racism by changing their behavior. So yes, we should have those conversations. But if there's a safe space to have those conversations without getting the kind of backlash that I would get for saying those type of things.
I think there is. I just think it's how you do it. So if you have that conversation with Andrew, if you don't laugh when Duval talks, if you don't make the joke about married women, right? The conversation doesn't get dismissed as a joke. It becomes, again, Charlamagne has an opportunity and takes an opportunity to check folk. He takes an opportunity to teach. And over the years, it seems like you've made a shift. Because I wouldn't have heard you use the word rape culture 4 years ago or 5 years ago.
No, I was using it 4 years ago. Okay. I was having a conversation literally about that term.
I guess what I'm saying, it seems like you're growing in your understanding of these things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Talk about what that process is like, what you know now that you didn't before, and what the trajectory looks like. So I want to get a sense of where you're going with this.
I mean, it's just a matter of listening. Like, you know, sometimes things are out of the realm of your understanding. Like, we're having conversations about things that we're not necessarily aware of. That's what I mean when I talk about the intention of words versus the impact of words. Like, we're sitting around talking about things that we may not be taking as serious as we should. And there's other people out there who have been impacted by the things that we're talking about. So now they're impacted by our conversation because they feel like, oh, they're laughing and they're making jokes and they're making light of something that ruined my life, so to speak. So it's just, for me, it's just a matter of probably listening more and talking less. And if I really want to speak on a certain subject, of course I'm going to give my experiences, but I'm also do what I did in this book, which is bring in an expert and let the expert speak on it. Like, I can't speak for the trans community. I can't speak for the LGBT community. I can't speak for, you know, women when it comes to being victims of sexual assault. I can only talk about the role that I play in it as a male, you know? Because I think we all have to use our respective privileges to combat prejudice.
And that's what I'm saying. I think we can't speak for trans folk, but we can be allies. And at the very least, we can not be antagonistic, right? 100%. And so we start with not being antagonistic, just as being human beings. And then we grow and we learn, I think, how to move into that next phase.
And that growth and that learning never really stops. Like, you know, like, for me, it doesn't. Like, that's why one of my favorite mottos is PTS, which is pray, train, and study. Because that studying means that you're constantly learning. You're constantly open to learning. Like, I'm not perfect in no way, shape, or form. I'm trying to unlearn 40 years of nonsense. You know what I mean? 40, like, okay, at least 35 years of nonsense.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to think of when things first started, like when all the toxic stuff starts first coming into your brain. You know what I'm saying?
The moment you're born, that they say, boy, stop crying. But the moment they make that room blue instead of yellow, because you're a boy, they already tell you what boys are supposed to be versus what girls are supposed to be. I'm telling you, this thing happens early.
You know what's funny too? I was just having this conversation because, like, I'm a guy who got molested at the age of 8. Like, my cousin's ex-wife was, you know, performing fellatio on me, like me suck her breast, all kind of stuff at 8 years old. And this is one of those times where I would say something and people would get upset because I would say, hey, you know, the reason I made her stop is because she got a Jerry curl and I didn't like the smell of her Jerry curl. That's a true story in my mind. Yeah. But when I'm sitting down talking to my therapist, she's like, no, you made her stop because you know what she was doing was wrong. Like, you just had an innate, you know, feeling that it was wrong, so you just made her stop. And I remember sitting around at 8 years old with other guys in my neighborhood having conversations about us being with older women. And when I look back on that now, I'm like, damn, all of us probably was getting, you know, touched on in some way, shape, or form. But it was normal to us because we thought it was cool.
Toxic masculinity is something we're all trying to use your language, unlearn. How is therapy helping you unlearn toxic masculinity?
Well, I had to first learn what the hell toxic masculinity was. That was another new term that, like, I'm like, huh? Like, you know, you say something and then all of a sudden, Charlamagne is the prime example of toxic masculinity. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. You know? So when you gotta learn what it is, I think toxic masculinity, that whole term masculinity period is it's like the term real almost in the hood. Like, you know, when you think real in the hood, like I said, it's something criminal. Like when you think masculine, it's usually, like there's no definition of masculine. Like what makes a man? You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what makes a man anymore. Like I don't know what the definition of being a man is. Like I said, for me, being a man is taking care of your kids. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to say taking care of your kids. Being a good father, being a great husband, like being a good person. Like that's just be a good human at the end of the day. Like I think all the things that come with being a so-called man are usually the toxic masculinity stuff. And that's what my father was telling me. When I called my father cheap back in the day, he was like, you one day you'll understand. You ain't a man yet. What does that mean? I'm a man because I cheat on the woman that I love over and over and over. That makes me a man. Because I have kids outside of wedlock with other women. That makes me a man. So,
failure. You are very afraid of failure. Mm-hmm. Why?
Because I want to realize my full potential as a black man on this planet. As a human being on this planet. Like I don't want to waste the life or the time that God gave me. And you know, when my father told me way back in the day, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're going to end up in jail, dead, or broke sitting under the tree somewhere. Like that scared me. Like the anxiety of that is what I used as fuel to just do something positive with my life. And I used to, you know, this acronym PEACE, which I'm sure you're familiar with, positive energy activates constant elevation. So it's like for me, I wanted to just cut out all the negative things in my life. I was not going to hustle no more. I started going to night school. I started working odd jobs. I worked at a clothing store in the mall. I worked at Taco Bell. I worked at a warehouse. I did anything I had to do to create this positive energy in my life because I felt like as long as I stayed in the street doing the same old things, I would be creating nothing but negative energy and there'd be no elevation. I'd end up being one of those guys in jail, dead, or broke sitting under the tree. So for me, I just don't want to waste my life. I don't want to waste my time. And it's not even about being like being a celebrity, because success to me is subjective. Like you can be making $30,000, $40,000 a year as long as you take care of your family and you know you got a place to stay and there's food on the table and you're happy. That's success. You know, I just wanted to find something that I was doing that made me actually happy, and I did that through radio.
What are you insecure about now?
What am I insecure about now? Why do I feel like I'm in therapy right now? What am I insecure about? I think the biggest thing I'm insecure about right now is like being uneducated. Because there's a lot of very intelligent people out here. There's a lot of very intelligent conversation going on. And I like to talk. But I've learned that if I don't have anything smart to say or I can't add to the conversation in an intelligent way and elevate the conversation, then it's better for me to just shut the hell up and listen. And I like doing that. But I also like to talk. So I think that, you know, not knowing makes me insecure. It makes me envious and it also makes me insecure. Like I like being around educated people, but the thing about that type of envy is you can always get smart too. You can pick up the same books that person picked up and you can read that book and you can have conversations with that person and understand where they got that wealth of knowledge from. Like knowledge is like the easiest thing to acquire. It's not like looking at Instagram and being mad because somebody got a Phantom and knowing you'll never be able to afford a Phantom. Like if somebody's, you know, more intelligent than you, then you can, you know, you can get that knowledge. I think I'm also insecure about being a father. I be insecure around my daughter sometimes. You know, like I be trying to be the cool dad. You doing that stupid dance, the muffin or whatever it's called. You know what I'm saying? And then they looking at you. You think you making them laugh. And they looking at you like you the lamest dude in the world. Like,
welcome to being a dad, right?
Yeah. You know, fatherhood can make you insecure.
That's interesting. I didn't expect that. My last question. We're gonna take some questions from you all. What's your biggest area of growth?
My biggest area of growth? I don't know.
Take a second to think about while I look at these questions.
Think about it. What's my biggest area of growth? Oh, definitely my biggest area of growth is like my approach to how I deal with people, I think, in life, but also in business. business, like when it comes to like doing interviews and stuff like that, especially with women, because I think that early on in my career, you would see write-ups and they'll be like, Charlamagne Tha God is the hip-hop Howard Stern or the black Howard Stern, or Charlamagne Tha God is the shock jock, and I never liked that because I don't feel like there's any value in shock.
Yeah.
And like,
you don't like being called, or you don't like doing it?
I don't like either, because I'm about to get to it. Like, sometimes you'll get caught up in a shtick not knowing that you're getting caught up in a shtick. Yeah. And one of my biggest fears always is becoming a caricature of yourself. Like, I've seen a lot of people start doing what it is they think people want them to do instead of actually doing what they feel. So I think a lot of times, I got caught up in a shtick in a lot of different interviews, and I would be trying to unsubconsciously be that hip-hop Howard Stern guy.
Yeah.
And if y'all not familiar with Howard Stern ain't the same person, in 2018 that he was in the 90s.
No, he's not.
So you gotta ask yourself, what Howard Stern were you trying to portray? And I think that was very whack.
Yeah.
That's not being real. Like if you're real, that's not being real. Subconsciously moving like somebody else because you think that's what people want from you, that's not real. So for me, I think that's been the biggest sense of growth.
Wow. We got some questions from y'all. I'm sorting them out because some of them are redundant and some of them are just bad questions.
No such thing as a bad question. The baddest question is the question you don't ask.
I thought that until I became a professor. Some of y'all motherfuckers are asking dumbass questions.
Let's be dumb, Mark. Everybody ain't as smart as you.
My friend has anxiety and depression. I feel inadequate as a friend. I don't know what to say or do, but listen, how can I be a better friend?
That is a great friend. That's what a great friend does. A great friend listens. Sometimes we just need somebody to listen to. Like, that's why I started going to therapy, because things started to get overwhelming, and like the people I would constantly talk to didn't have the answers for me anymore. Like, when you're the go-to person for a lot of people, you gotta ask yourself, who is the go-to person go to? So sometimes we just need somebody to sit there and listen. So that's being a great friend. Being that great friend that sits there and takes the time to listen, because everybody's dealing with their own issues. Everybody got their own problems. But sometimes you gotta set your stuff to the side just to sit back and listen to somebody else. That's why therapy is great, because you literally paying somebody to be your friend. You're paying somebody to be a captive audience. You gonna get this hour of anything.
You've answered part of this, but the second half I think is interesting. Do you feel your interviewing style can read as confrontational? Has it helped or hurt you? I think you kind of already answered that, but the second part is, do you ever feel guilty?
Yeah, of course. Like if you're being honest with yourself and you're sitting back and observing the situation, like I always tell people how bad I felt about the Floyd Mayweather situation. When Floyd Mayweather,
there was this whole Kiki.
Yeah, he remember Jimmy Kimmel and 50 Cent and Nelly and all these people were clowning Floyd Mayweather about not knowing how to read.
Right.
And like 50 was like, I'll give you $1 million if you go on there and read a Harry Potter book on Jimmy Kimmel. And I remember my producer saying, yo, we got Floyd in here reading. I'm like, how we got Floyd reading? He was like, he came in here and read drops. And I was like, let me hear it. And she let me hear it. And I was like, oh, we going on the air with that right now.
He didn't read it so well. So he didn't read it fluently.
Yeah.
He used technical language.
And everybody, when I say everybody was so against that. Envy, Angela, all producers, they was like, no, we're not doing that. And I'm like, F that, he gotta fight himself, we gotta fight himself, we gotta get these numbers, we gonna get these ratings, play the clip. And I just played, and there was nothing behind it. I didn't use it as a teachable moment. I was literally just on the air saying, look, we need to get them numbers. I was saying this on the air, we gonna get these numbers, yada, yada, yada. And then like literally, later on that night, I just did not feel good about it. And nobody pressed me about it. I didn't get in trouble from corporate about it or anything. I just literally did not feel good about that. And one of the reasons I didn't feel good is because I started looking on my social media and it was like mad people saying, yo, you don't understand how much of a trigger that was for me. I'm not the best reader. I used to get called on in school and have to stand up and read and people would laugh at me. So I didn't realize there was so many people who did not know how to read. So I was like, oh man, that was whack of me.
How about Lil Mama?
Yeah.
guilty or wrong about it. And she even did an interview where she said, I didn't make her cry. It was the conversation about her mom. And she's been back to the Breakfast Club since then, and we've had conversations. And she still clowns on me now. Yeah. Like every now and then she'll just post a picture on her Instagram of me sitting on Wendy Williams' lap or something like that. Like with no context to it. Like she just woke up, saw me or her crying. Okay, watch this. So it's cool.
One more. Making Monique donkey today.
No, I don't feel bad about that. Not at all. Ain't no way she's
Not about disagreeing with her. Not about disagreeing with her about the movie, but about making her donkey today.
Everybody gets donkey. Donkey today doesn't discriminate. Okay. Like that's the crazy thing. People like, you hate black women. Everybody gets donkey today.
Right. It's interesting because I was actually thinking that when you answered the question about Mayweather. Because I would imagine people in the audience would say you felt guilty about doing some kind of harm to Floyd, but Lil Mama and Monique no. Well, I try to see this gender. I know they're all very different cases, so I guess I would ask, are there any instances with black women where you felt guilty?
Yeah, I talk about it in my book with Marilyn Negra. Absolutely. And when I did when I sent out the tweet where I said it would be dope if woke women of color created a platform like Tommy Lauren. Like that was horrible.
Yeah, that was bad.
And guess what? That was done with the best of intentions, but it goes back to impact over intention. Because what I should have said was, who are the woke women of color that we can help elevate and create platforms for? And I should have kept Lauren out of it all together. But I would never change that whole situation because that night is the night I met Angela Rye. That's how me and Angela Rye connected and became, spiritual brother and sister now because of that night. And I'm the type of person, man, like I always say, the best apology is change behavior, and I'm not going to talk too much about anything. I'm going to show you. So when I talk about uplifting these women and helping these women elevate their voices and providing platforms for these women, I'd rather just do it. And I think if you look over the past couple years, my track record kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah. I think saying it and doing it is important, especially in a world where people don't say it enough. People don't acknowledge black women, they don't acknowledge queer folk, they don't acknowledge trans folk. We gotta do it, but we also have to say it because it's so easy to erase them. You know what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah. That's so funny too, man, because and I remember saying this because, I used to have a show on MTV too called Uncommon Sense, and Crystal was my co-host, Crystal from The Read, and me and Crystal used to have these conversations, and it was this period, it was like maybe 3-4 years ago, where it was kind of like the rise of women of color like we're seeing now, when they were saying like, black men treat us so horribly, and black men prefer white women over us, and I never understood that. And the reason I never understood that is because black women have always been the strongest women in my life. My grandmother, my mother, and I think in a way we take that for granted.
Oh, absolutely. We can exploit that emotional labor. Exactly. That women always gonna be there for us.
Exactly.
Without reciprocating.
Yes. So when these women were telling me that they were hurt and they don't like the treatment of black men and black men hate them, that was so new to me. And I was like, I did not know black women felt that way. And the reason I didn't know that is because, like I said, they were always the strongest people in my life. But I realized a lot of them were friendly, like my mom. I think about 1998 when my mom was getting divorced with my pops, and she was sitting in her room listening, playing Lauryn Hill X Factor over and over. And in my mind, I'm thinking, my mom cool as hell. She listening to Lauryn Hill. My mom was hurting. And when I started going to therapy this year, and I'm talking to my mom about going to therapy, she started telling me how she went to therapy 20 years ago, and I'm like, who knew?
Wow.
So
give you a lighter one. I went to school for communication studies and had an eventual goal of being a talk show host. What advice could you give me?
Be yourself. Don't try to be a second-rate version of Angie Martinez, Wendy Williams, Charlamagne Tha God.
One do-over in your life, what would it be?
I don't think I would do any do-overs. And the reason I don't think I would do any do-overs is because I watch a lot of Back to the Future, and I believe in the space-time continuum, and I believe that if I move anything that happened at any point in my life, it would alter the future.
Yeah.
And I don't think I want that to happen. I feel like everything that's happened in my life was supposed to happen, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't necessarily believe in good or bad experiences. I believe in just one long process. And I think that we're all just walking one long process, and we're all going to get to our ultimate final divine destination at some point, but along is just a reflection of life, and that's what art is. Art is a reflection of life. So a lot of times when we point the finger at these brothers in hip-hop, we gotta point the finger at the system that created these conditions and these environments that these brothers are rapping about. You know, so to me, hip-hop isn't the blame. Hip-hop is just, you know, being the news reporters. They're letting us know what's going on in the hoods. Now, when you know better, you should do better. I do have a problem when a lot of these hip-hop artists get to a better space. They make money and they're still trying to peddle the BS that's going on in the hood just to sell records. You know, they're just trying to peddle being a drug user just to sell records, but they don't really do it. They don't drink the alcohol they rap about. They don't do the drugs they rap about. They're not riding around packing guns and stuff like that like they rap about. I have a problem with that. But a lot of these new brothers that's just getting in the game and they're just talking about what's going on. They're fresh out the hood, so they're talking about things that happen in the hood. I don't look at them like they're the problem, because I don't necessarily think that they're the problem.
Okay. What has been your best coping mechanism when you have an anxiety attack?
Prayer, affirmations, and breathing. And I think about before I even got diagnosed with anxiety 9 years ago, prior to that, whenever I would have those panic attacks, the first thing I would do is say, I love Jehovah God and His Son Jesus Christ. I love Jehovah God and His Son Jesus Christ. I love Jehovah God and His Son Jesus Christ. Fuck Satan, fuck Satan, fuck Satan. And the reason I used to say that is because in the book of Job, they told Job, curse God and die. So my mindset was, if I curse Satan, I'll be blessed. So whenever I used to have those like real crazy panic attacks, I would really think it was just the devil trying me in some way, shape, or form. Like it just didn't feel right. So I felt like if I did that affirmation and then just sat still for a while, it would all come down. And it's still kind of like that to this day. It's prayer, it's breathing, and it's affirmations. And getting to the source of your anxiety. Like if you know exactly where the anxiety is coming from, if I know what's causing me to have that anxiety, then it's easy for me to rationalize in my brain and work through it.
Of all the sources of your anxiety, what's the biggest one?
You said Beanie Siegel.
I was gonna look at red. All right, no time out. I gotta ask you this. Since Beans has been put on the table, I watch that interview like once a month, man. When the anger meter goes, they got the French Star anger meter, and the Beans, because Beans just gets mad. Oh, shout out to Beans, I love you, you know. But every time, like, he was getting like irrationally angry for no reason. It seemed like he would get himself mad. When those moments happen with his French or with his Beans, like, what are you thinking in your mind? Because you look real calm, like you like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, that's Mac. Like, he might jump up at any moment.
Well, I believe in irrational anxiety and rational anxiety. Like, that's rational anxiety. If I feel a way in that situation, I should feel a way in that situation. I'm not ignorant to the things that I've said about any of those people. And it's like, I had an opinion about Beanie and the way he was approaching the Meek situation. And it's like, when he came, I gotta have that same opinion to him.
Right, same energy.
And I can't tell him how to react to that. That's what I always tell people. Yes, you have freedom of speech, but speech ain't really free. There's a cost to all your words.
Yeah.
So if he reacts in a certain way, I gotta deal with that. That's just what it is. So I'm never like overly anxious in those situations because I understand the moment. Like I'm supposed to feel butterflies in my stomach in that moment. I'm supposed to feel a certain type of energy in that moment. So to answer your question, what's the biggest source of my anxiety?
Oh, yeah, right. That actually wasn't.
I honestly think probably like not being here. Like
that?
Yeah. Like not being here because like I got a family. Like I want to see my kids grow. Like, you know, it was a point in time where we all never wanted to grow up, so to speak. Man, I'm looking forward to being 70, 80 years old, you know, and seeing my daughters grow up and, you know, go to college and, you know, be great queens on this planet and get married and have grandkids, which is all this stuff. But, you know, like I want everybody got a birthday. I want to get as many birthdays under my belt as possible. So it's just like that thought of not being here to help, you know, my people and to be here for my people through this journey called life. That's probably my biggest source of anxiety.
What advice would you give to a hopeless romantic fool for love woman who is young and beautiful with money to spend and just wants to be loved? I told you to read the end of that question before I started it. I'm not
go south, I don't want no parts of that whatsoever.
You're gonna get them text messages.
That's right.
Why you ain't tell me you want shit?
That's right. Go make the mistakes on your own.
I always hear people say trust your gut when it comes to finding your passion. But when you have anxiety, everything feels off. How do you trust your gut under that circumstance?
That's a great question.
Great question.
And honestly, that's why, therapy has been so good for me. But other than therapy, man, just like meditation. I always say God whispers, right? Like God always tells you exactly what it is that you should be doing. He just don't repeat himself. So he'll tell you that one time, yes or no. Move, don't move. This is right, this is wrong. After that, everything else is just noise. It's just the world. Your friends will be telling you one thing. Social media will be telling you something else. You'll be telling your own self a whole bunch of other things. But we all know already what it is that we need to be doing. We just keep trying to make excuses either to not do it or we're just scared. That's why for me, and salute to K Fox. I know K Fox does radio here in Philly. Today's her birthday too. Happy birthday, K Fox. She gave me this acronym, and I talk about it in my book called FEAR. And it's either face everything and rise, or fear everything and run. And I think a lot of times when God gives you that word, we run from it instead of just rising up and saying, okay, this is what it is I'm here to do. And by the way, you may take that step in that direction, and it still may not be where you're supposed to be. You just may need to be going in that direction. And I think sometimes we're just scared to walk in faith. And we can't, I dedicate the book to people who walk in faith, not fear.
Yeah. Last question. I am only asking because this person's from North Carolina. Devon from North Carolina, they wrote that on the paper. Is there a point where discussing the need for therapy will become too mainstream? Like McDonald's selling vegan burgers, social media causing antisocial behaviors. I don't see that. I almost don't even want to ask that. But I guess my question is, and we're going to answer yours too, Devon, wherever you are, is will therapy become mainstream enough, especially for us?
I hope so. And I got some ideas and some things that I'm going to be doing real soon that I hope makes it a little bit more mainstream. But I have come to understand, and that's another thing that gives me anxiety, but it is what it is. When you're in a certain position, when you're in the position that we're in, there's nothing we can do where people will think we have the purest intentions. You understand what I'm saying? Like I'm just up here talking about my experiences with anxiety. I have a platform, with Touchstone Books to be able to write a book about it. Go get an expert, Dr. Ishmael, to give the clinical correlations of my experiences, and people will say, "Man, you're just doing that for money. You're just talking about mental health now for money." So it's like you kind of like you damn if you do, you damn if you don't. Like you're either gonna use your platform to do the right things or you're not. Simple as that. And I mean, what you want me to do? You want me to write a book about doing opioids and like being the biggest drug user on the planet? Like, is that fine? Is it fine for me just to peddle the nonsense or peddle the BS? But I'm peddling something that I'm actually going through. This is a real life experience for me, and I always thought that that's what you're supposed to do with your platform. It's kind of like when you see the woke white women, as they call them now, like Amy Schumer and Chelsea Handler, and I guess they're finally talking the way we always would want white people to talk. Like they're using their privilege to combat prejudice, but people be like, oh, they're just doing that because their careers are not what they want them to be, or they're just doing that for attention. It's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So it's just like, yes, I hope therapy gets mainstream. I hope everybody starts talking about therapy. I hope it's more people like Taraji P. Henson opening up, foundations to eradicate the stigmas of mental health from our society. I hope it's more rappers like Chance who donate $1 million to mental health services in Chicago. I hope more people come out with books about mental illness that they experience. And I hope more rappers like Kid Cudi talk about it. And, I hope Kanye finally realizes he does need some help and he finally really embraces being bipolar. Yes, I want it to get as mainstream as possible. Let's start normalizing things that can actually help us instead of normalizing all the things that hurt us.
I was having this conversation the other day. I said, people say, well, why would you give Charlamagne a platform? People who are criticizing Charlamagne already has a platform. He didn't need to come here to do that. The fact that you're willing to use a platform to talk about healing, to talk about accountability of your words and actions, to talk about your development, to talk about mental health, I think is a gift to us. You're in process, I'm in process, we're all in process. We're gonna stay in process. process.
Yes.
But I'm grateful that you spent some time with us to share that process with us and to do some healing and have some tough conversations.
Thank you. Can I say one last thing about that? Social media is a big source of my anxiety. And I think it's a big source of all of our anxiety. And the problem with social media is that social media is creating this unattainable picture of perfection, right? For everyone. Like, you don't see anybody's mistakes on social media. Like Pastor Stephen Furtick says that social media is everybody's highlight reel. You don't see none of the shots that they missed. You don't see none of the setbacks. You don't see none of the losses. You don't see none of the times they effed up. You just see this final product that's so perfect. And I think that virtual reality is seeping into the real world. And I think that a lot of us are trying to walk around and act perfect. Why? Because I think that a lot of the mistakes we may have made when we were younger are coming back to haunt us in some way, shape, or form. So now nobody wants to talk about anything wrong that they did. If I was a kid growing up in this era, I'd probably want to kill myself trying to walk around being all perfect all the time. Because as soon as you make one little mistake, but you see people fronting on social media, people fronting in the real world, you'll start to feel inferior. So I want to tell all those kids out there, y'all not the problem. Everybody out here that's fronting like they so perfect is the problem. So what you're watching from me is somebody that's growing in real time and not afraid to share my experiences, good, bad, or ugly. Because everything I ever learned from in my life, the book that I learned from the most in my life was the autobiography of Malcolm X. That is the greatest story of evolution when it comes to a man that we've ever seen. That's why I love the Nation of Islam so much, because they go into those prisons and they've taken those people who society threw away and have actually made them real gods and real goddesses, real kings and real queens. And we can't be afraid to grow, we can't be afraid to evolve, and we definitely can't be afraid to make mistakes. And y'all seen me make a lot of them, but hey man, God not done with me yet.
That's right. We not done with you yet either. We're gonna have you sign some books, take some pictures.
Let's do it.
All right. Everybody give Charlamagne Tha God another round of applause.
Salute to Press Pause Productions, man. Y'all keep growing.